Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. It's Split Squad Summer. Yes, I got that out finally on the third time. We've got in the house Sydney Taylor, Ryan Scout, Chris Sallow, and Butch Jones. What's happening, everybody?
What's up, guys?
Hello.
So we got a topic here which we just discussed. Not everybody really liked this one, but I figured it'd be fun for as long as it lasts. We actually talked about doing this in various incarnations, but this is all about singers that we like, and we really understand they don't have a really great singing voice, but we love them anyway. All right, so not those vocalists we're like, wow, listen to that, right? These are the singers we're like, yeah, not the greatest singer in the world, but who cares? They're the coolest anywhere. We still love them, right? So everybody's picked three. We might have some honorable mentions, so we're kind of going to go round robin. Everybody will go through their three, and we're going to go Chris, Butch, Ryan, Sydney, and myself, and then we'll circle back around for any honorables that we might have. So, Mr. Allo, what do you got for us today?
Okay, cool. Yeah, the first one that popped into my head was super easy. Because I remember being a 17-year-old kid, I guess, and this was the first time I think I heard a singer, and I'm like, wow, like this guy put out an album, and he's going on a major tour opening for Voivod and Testament, and the singer of this band sucks, but yet it totally works. And I caught the reunion tour in, I guess it was 2019, and he still sucks vocally, but it still totally works. The singer is Sean Killian from Violence, and the album was Eternal Nightmare.
Great
and
choice.
Man, he's just like very nasally and just terrible delivery. But again, it totally works. And yeah, that album just I've bought it multiple times, but you need to hear the album to believe. And there you go. Ryan has a version of it there.
Right, I didn't even think of it, Chris. And that's like, oh man, everything you said, 100%. Yeah, his thinking that people are like, fuck no, it's like,
yeah,
like nails on a chalkboard. I love it. So
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's why it fits perfect. He's a terrible singer, but it totally works. So he, it is a good
classic album right there.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Love it.
100%. My second one is another one that people always talk about. That is a great band, but with a crappy singer. But again, totally works. These guys have a couple albums. I only have the first two. So they supposedly when he did the records with his band, the name that he used as a vocalist was made up. But the singer is Zeeb Parks from Witchfinder General, and man, he's if you haven't heard, the band is amazing. It's like new wave of British heavy metal meets Black Sabbath. But man, his tone is just fucking terrible. There you go. Awesome album covers. I have a couple of the shirts.
I got to take this out of the plastic so you can get a real good look at that.
You and that plastic.
Well, a lot of titties going on there.
Yeah. No, on those two album covers. But yeah, just not a good singer, but again, totally works. I mean, check out the song Music, which is on Friends of Hell, which was the second record they did. And I'm like, man, it's just so fucking bad this guy's singing. But again, it's great for what it is. And the third one might be, somewhat controversial because some people do really like this guy. And he's done a bunch of other stuff, which I've never heard, never seen the guy in live, which I would be very curious to be. But I don't know, to me, he's just way too high-pitched and shrieky. And it's Neil Turbin, who was on Fistful of Metal. I mean, every time I put that on, I'm like, oh, man, it's just, yeah. I'm like, holy shit, dude.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But for lots of people, that's their favorite Anthrax album. For a lot of people, that's the only Anthrax album. Like, none of the other Anthrax albums exist, but that's the one.
But that one's awesome, though.
Oh, it's a great record. I mean, I still love it, but I just think every time I hear it, I'm like, wow, this guy's just not a good singer. But, it works, like all these guys. So those are my top three.
Chris, I saw him by accident. I was at the Chance like years ago watching, I want to say Agnostic Front. And that's back when you could wander over the top level to the loft. And I walked over there and there was a guy playing to like 3 people and the bartender, probably Lynn. And he was just like belting out like old Anthrax songs. And I'm like,
and it was him, because he used to have a band called,
I had no idea.
Death Riders.
I just walked in front of the stage. I had no idea what's going on. Nobody was in there. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, I would still love to see him. It's one of the few guys that I could say I never saw live. I mean, my first Anthrax record was Spreading the Disease, and then I went back and I was like, yeah, this guy's just,
he hits those notes.
Yeah. I mean, he really does. Maybe a little too many, but yeah. So those are my picks.
Cool. All right, the guy who's wearing a cool Thin Lizzy shirt that I don't think I've ever seen before. Look at that. Nice.
The Black Rose.
That's right.
Caricature.
Hell yeah. Very
Yes,
cool.
sir.
Very cool.
Well, I went at it, no surprise, a little differently than Mr. Allo. I don't think any of these guys suck. I think that they are not classical, they're not Steve Marriott or Paul Rogers on vocals, but who is besides those two? But I'll give you 3. So this will be controversial. This one could show up again. I wouldn't be surprised. And I left out ones that I know that are obvious, very obvious. I guess we can circle back to those. But the first one for me is because it was a good story for me I've told it before. When I was a kid and I was 10 years old, I came in 3rd in a pinball tournament and I got a gift certificate for a store called Service Merchandise. And older kids in my neighborhood told me that I would like the band Rush. And I went and bought Farewell of the Kings, had just come out in 77, and put the first song on, and I hear Mickey Mouse. And I'm trying to figure out, well, I don't like this. What am I going to do? I don't want to keep this record. I want to take it back.
He's laughing because she probably picked them as well.
But, he sang so high. He sang so high, and I was like, yeah, I've never heard anything like that at 10 years old in 77. But I think he's got a great voice for what he does. Could you picture Rush with someone different than Geddy singing? Nope. Is he a classically perfect singer? No, he's not. Does he do what he does very well? Yes, he does. But I understand that there's a lot of people out there that never got into Rush because of the voice. So that was kind of where I went with that. So Geddy is one of mine. Another one is another guy I think is phenomenal at what he does. I've tried over the decades to get people into the bands and specifically his solo band. And that's King Diamond. I love King Diamond. He's fantastic at the falsetto, but I've had many people over the decades tell me I like the music. I can't stand his voice.
They're all wrong.
And you know what though? I love it, but I can understand.
Oh no, I do too. I
can understand. And then my third is I think he's got a cool voice too, but I couldn't foresee this band with anybody else singing either, and that's Jeff Keith from Tesla.
Wow, really?
Because he does not have a classical voice. I have one friend in particular. Hey, Greg, if you happen to watch this, who says he likes Tesla and hates his voice.
Wow.
And he says that's one of the reasons that they never got as big as they could have got was because of the voice. Now, I'm not saying I agree with him. I love Jeff Keith's voice. He's got that 60s, 70s vibe to him. He's got that rasp, absolutely. He's got the little psychedelic thing that I'm not a big fan of the 60s psychedelic thing, but he's older than me, so I get it. But I love his voice. I think he's got a great voice. Again, is his voice great, in the classical terms of things of a singer? No, he's very whiny, but could you imagine Tesla without him? I can't.
No.
So those are my 3.
Cool. Yeah, I've never heard anybody say they didn't like his voice. That's wild.
Yeah, no, my friend Greg Platzer, Pennsylvania, that's exactly what he has said. He sucks.
All right.
Yeah, I know what you mean too about and I do love King Diamond, but for me, it's one of those, he's got one of those voices where after I listen to like an album, I need to stop listening to it for a bit because it's just like eventually I'm like, I love the music and I don't get me wrong, I don't not like his voice by any means. I love King Diamond, but it's just after you listen to an album of it, it's kind of like my ears need a little bit of a break.
A little fatigued.
Yeah, they're a little fatigued, but
I mean, I don't think I could listen to King Diamond for like 4 or 5 hours straight.
you'd be hearing that in your sleep.
That's a
Like,
lot.
oh, I can't.
Ryan's got that skeptical look on his face. Like, yeah, I could listen.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking he doesn't do the he didn't do the falsetto as much on Nuns Have No Fun in Melissa, but like what don't break the ocean, especially with his solo stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
he goes
Oh yeah, the
crazy.
Merciful Fate stuff isn't as heavy with it, but the solo stuff, it's just like
It's way more prominent.
And I like his solo stuff better than Merciful Fate for
Yeah.
me. So
Cool. All right, Ryan, what do you got?
This was a tough one because yeah, I'm kind of, you know, I've just never been like really big into when I thought of this, when you said this, I'm thinking like, well, you got like bands like Nightwish and stuff, and they can technically sing perfect. You know, they have very good, you know, classically trained like opera level singers. I don't like that stuff. It's just personal taste. I don't
I'm
like
with you.
vocals. It's not my thing. I like clean singing, but not that stuff. So the phrase that came to mind is one I've heard a couple of times over the years, which I like a lot, and that is more will than skill. Where you have these guys that are charismatic, they're great frontmen and stuff, but just not, like you said, not the classically trained, like hitting all those notes. So I picked 3 of my favorite bands who vocalists I like a lot, but you know, they're just they're not, and they're perfect in the band and they're in, but for the other band, I don't know, like in another context, I don't know, it might be a tough pill to swallow. So the first guy, I think right off the top of the bat here, just kind of piggybacks on Chris's stuff. This guy, you hear this band and the singer, you're like, oh, what the fuck? You know, it's a jarring, immediate reaction. And I think for some people, it might be tough. And that's Tim Baker from Cirith Ungol. If you ever heard this guy's voice, he has this super high-pitched, non-stop falsetto that's like Sean Killian, King Diamond, but it never stops. He's like going up and down with these like very, very, very dramatic, like he's in like a high school glee club. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like very like, it's very overwrought. I love it. Yeah, like I love it, but he sells it like really hard, like it's your first audition.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know, I love it though. But yeah,
there's that note. I want to see what number that note is. High School Glee Club.
I know it's. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but if you listen to like this, is
That was perfect.
Album, with the Dead. Just check out like the song Pete said, "Master of the Pit." Just go on YouTube and hear that song. If you're not familiar with the band, you'd be like, "Oh, okay, all right, this is you know." But I love their old stuff. They reunited. I saw them a couple of years ago. They kicked tons of ass. He still sounds the same, which is good. You know, his voice hasn't aged in like this came out in '84, and they've been around.
Falsetto. Of course, his voice hasn't aged.
Oh, I know, but he hasn't gotten any like weather or anything. He still hits those notes perfectly, which a lot of so they still sound good. He still sounds good. So yeah, Tim Baker, and I don't want to sound like I don't like him because I love the guy's voice, but it's a hard sell. I'll say that. So my second one, definitely one of my favorite bands, and this guy, he's got a more of a nasally voice. Again, he just fits the band perfect. Not a classically great singer, and that is Mark Shelton from Manila Road. He just has this kind of, you know, these are kind of like a classic traditional metal band. And again, his voice fits the band perfectly, but I don't know. He's not like a powerful, great singer. And he really is one of my favorite vocalists. So I feel like I'm shooting myself in the foot here, but it does fit this thing. He's not like a really like, you know, like a Bruce Dickinson or Dio or Rob Halford level vocalist. That's just not his deal. And, you know, also a guitarist and singer at the same time, which adds another piece to the puzzle. Yep. So going Vanilla Road and going even further up, higher on my list of favorite bands. I thought about including him. I was like, do I want to add this guy? Because he definitely fits in this category. His voice is very unique. It's a tough sell, and that is Snake from Voivod.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You gotta, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people have heard Voivod. This is their first album, War and Pain. So they're from Canada, from north of Montreal. So English, not their first language. And so the lyrics are in English. So you could tell early on they were, you know, the translations and the way he pronounces stuff. It adds charm. It's different, but I don't know. I can't think of this band with another singer. It's like it's Voivod with.
But they did have another guy, right, for a couple records.
Yeah, in the '90s they had another guy. His voice is just kind of like he was just like one, you know, like an everyman. You know, wasn't bad, but it didn't stand out. Just had like kind of like a gruff, like shouty voice. Eric Forster, I think was his name. But those albums are good too. But yeah, there's nothing beats Snake. His voice is very unique, and that's just all I could say. Not an amazing legendary vocalist. He's just fucking Snake, and yeah, I think I've ever heard him in another band either. I think just in Voivod. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, Ryan, I actually, in my original list, when I was putting this together, I had all three of those guys. And I said, you know what? I'm going to save those for Ryan because I have a feeling he's going to pick at least two out of the three. But they're good choices because it's like you take them out of that context and you're like, oh, that's kind of rough. But in the context of those bands, they sound perfectly fine. Or at least to us, they sound perfectly fine, right? Because we only know those bands with them. But to someone coming in cold, they might be like, oh, that's not very good vocals right there.
All three of those bands have been around for like decades. Long time, yeah. they've had a lot of time, a lot of albums to kind of like sink into your consciousness. So it's not like they're just coming out last month with this band. You're like, whoa, who's this guy? They've been doing this since like the early 80s or the late 70s in a couple of these cases. So yeah, you kind of just get familiar with it, and then what's familiar, you're like, I like him. It's like Eddie Lee, I can't picture anybody else singing for Rush. It's just how it is. It's perfect.
I know the first time I listened to Sirith Ungol, I did not know what to think of his vocals. It took me a while.
I sat there. I bought that album, King of the Dead. I'm just sitting there like, what the?
Yeah, it's because it's really different. And I felt the same way about Voivod, man. Those first two albums, I was kind of like, I don't know about this. But you get used to them after a while, right? So
you do. It's very charming in that way. It kind of like it worms its way in your head. But the first listen, you're like, oh, okay, this is different.
Yep. Cool. All right, Sydney, what do you got?
I mean, this is what I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting to hear what she's got.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of mine was definitely Geddy Lee. I gotta be honest. I mean, I don't want to say I hate Rush. I don't hate Rush by any means, but yeah, I remember hearing Rush sitting in the backseat of my parents' car when I was very young and hearing Tom Sawyer and me going, ugh, I don't really like this.
Oh, but wait a minute though. But you don't like Rush, right? Because then this doesn't fit then.
I don't like Rush, but I don't dislike the music, if that makes sense. I think his voice just really turns me off from it, if that makes sense. I mean, like there are some songs that I really do like from Rush. Again, I could probably never listen to Tom Sawyer again. I mentioned that here, but there are just some songs that it really just is not my favorite. But I often wonder if his voice sounded different, or if there was a different kind of tenor to his voice, that maybe I would like the band more. Because I don't hate the music. It's not like, oh man, I hate Rush. Like if they come on, I'm just gonna bash the radio.
But they're not. But they're not a band that you like. So you don't like his voice, but you don't really love the band either.
Yeah, but I mean, it was one of my choices. So take it or leave it. I got some honorable mentions too. Anyways. The next one that I picked is one that I was thinking about this, and I was actually listening to him, and it kind of just popped in my head, is Tom Petty, which I love Tom Petty. He's very similar in the tenor of his voice to like Neil Young. He never really kind of hits the pitches 100%. But for what he does, he's amazing. He's Tom Petty. And his voice fits the style of music that he does perfectly. So definitely not a very technical singer by any means, but he was great nonetheless. And then for my third, I went with one that was pretty obvious, but I was like, man, I have to pick this. But it's funny because as I was going through these, I noticed that a lot of the singers that I felt were kind of less technical were a lot of the singers that are really kind of famous as being over the top frontmen. That's kind of what it is. If you're not really a super technical singer, usually kind of compensate for that a little bit in what you do on stage. And I think that there's no better example than that, the David Lee Roth. I mean, if you just listen,
that was on my top 5 for sure.
Yeah, if you listen to, I remember hearing it because they're all over YouTube. You go to the isolated vocals on like Running with the Devil, and it's just him like screaming, and you're like,
it sounds fabulous.
It's iconic.
It's just him screaming. And I mean, like when you're listening to the context of the song, you don't really notice it as much, I guess.
The world loves Ian Gillan because of him screaming for 11 minutes in Child of Time.
Okay, but David Lee Roth a lot of the time, it's almost like he's just saying, like, in some
that's his shtick.
He's just saying, yeah, but exactly. He's not a technical singer. He's not coming out here like Ronnie James Dio and belting, a song like that. It's just, it's not him.
I'd love to hear David Lee Roth's version of Jesus Christ Superstar.
I would like to hear that as well.
I'd love to see Ian Gillan jump off a jump riser that's 20 feet high and do a.
But we're not talking that. We're talking
this
singers.
This is about his showmanship. This is about his.
Yeah. Listen, I'm sure David Lee Roth will even tell you, I'm not a great singer. I'm a great entertainer.
Yeah, I love it.
Ozzy says the same thing.
Those first 6 albums, he's fantastic.
Those first 6 albums are fucking amazing.
And if
He's
you're going
great on
to
each
sit here
one
and
of
tell
them.
me that none of those were at all somehow edited in the studio, you're lying to me. Because have you heard, even when you go back, I watched back when Eddie died, I kind of did a lot of deep dives in the Van Halen stuff. And you listen to him on that tour in the 1984 tour, and he was still doing the same shit that he does now, where he's singing half of it, but not really singing half of it, and singing a line and not singing it. And
That's going to talk a lot even back then. I like that.
I will say this. I have a shit ton of Van Halen bootlegs from 1975 up to 1982. And from 78 to 80, those 3 years, Roth sang every fucking word.
So
it was after that he started doing that. Seriously. If you listen to any of those bootlegs up to 80, he's singing everything. After that, it's, I forgot the fucking words. Up before that, he was a singer and he sounded great. I will always
defend him. Once he made some money, man. Once he made some money, he realized that he didn't have to.
I don't have to sing.
I love David Lee Roth, but he's I'm sorry, he's no technical singer. He's not a technical.
Oh no, he's not.
He's an entertainer.
Well, but he's a perfect example of what we're talking about here. It's like,
100%.
Not the greatest singer in the world. We know it, but we love him anyway, right?
Yeah, I'm with Sydney 100% on that one for sure.
He fits 100%.
And there's others like on my, I know we're going to go back around, but like Chris Allen, the Ozzy is another perfect example.
Yeah.
A great entertainer. If you really listen to Ozzy's vocals by itself, I mean, he's not this technically, he doesn't have all this expertise and
absolutely
breath control and stuff. You know what I mean? He's just singing.
And he's admitted it plenty of times. He's like, I'm an entertainer.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, again, I freaking love Ozzy too. It's
Totally.
part of, especially in this genre, what we're talking about. I mean, sometimes it's less about being technical and it's more about the persona and the kind of energy that you bring to a show. It's more than just singing technical sometimes. So
a lot of bands need that front man, right? They need some guy who's going to go out there and be the
they all need it. I mean, technically, right? We were just talking about Ingve, a guy that he needs somebody out there.
He doesn't see that though.
Yeah.
No.
All right, cool. I guess it's me. Okay, all right. So yeah, I kind of did a little bit of what everybody else has done here. I took guys that I like, but I fully know that they're not, the most amazing singers on the planet, but they're perfect for the band, and that's what they bring a lot of things to the table. But you're not gonna confuse any of the guys I'm going to mention with someone like a Ronnie James Dio or Robert Plant or Freddie Mercury and that kind of stuff. So the first guy I chose, again, I think his vocals are really cool, but I fully realize that this guy ain't a great singer, never was. Gene Simmons from Kiss.
Yeah,
think of that.
I always love his vocals, right? I think he's got that he fits the darker old Kiss stuff and what have you. But, when you really listen to him, it's like, yeah, he's not really much of a singer, but he makes it work in the context of what he does for Kiss.
He sells it. He does.
Totally.
He does. But could you imagine anybody else but him singing like Deuce or Watching You or God of Thunder or Parasite or Almost Human, any of those songs?
War Machine was the first one that popped in my head.
Right? He's perfect for it. But you really listen,
he was a character. That was the thing with him. He was playing a character. He wasn't, being Gene Simmons, the guy. He was being the demon.
Absolutely. And again, vocals aren't great, but they're perfect for those songs.
It totally works.
Another guy I picked, and he's pretty bad now, but even back in the day, he wasn't great, but he fit the music. He's a great front man because he does everything you want. And, when you have a guy like Michael Schenker, he wants to do his thing playing guitar, and he liked having Gary Barden around, right? And because Gary Barden's running around talking to the audience, doing what he does, wearing the cowboy hat, all that kind of stuff. But, when you really come down to it, Gary Barden is probably one of the worst singers he's ever had in his band. Butch is laughing because Butch knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I do.
Right? I mean, I love Gary. I do.
Right.
But it's just like, he's not really a good singer. But he's a great front man, and he fit those early albums, right? So
There's a reason why he never showed up on anything else.
Exactly. He had plenty of time,
That's
right?
a good
But
He
point.
sure did.
always unemployed unless Michael calls. Yeah.
Right.
My next pick is going to be pretty controversial because, again, we all love this guy. We do. He has sung on some classic albums. But when it comes down to it, he doesn't really have like your prototypical lead singer voice. Udo Dirkenschneider.
I have him on my list.
Oh, Udo.
I mean, you know,
That's
I know,
all.
I love
Yeah.
him. I love him. But, you know, is he a great singer? Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I got you.
He's more of, you know, he looks different.
He's Udo.
Sounds
Yeah.
different. He's got that gravelly voice, and he's, you know, the shades and the crew cut.
Camouflage pants.
Yeah.
Nobody else can sing those songs. I like New Accept, but nobody else can sing those old Accept
I mean,
songs.
yeah, I mean, he's
Udo.
so unique.
Including Udo.
But again, are we going to confuse him with you know, Paul Rogers and Steve Marriott? I'm
Right.
afraid not. You know, how often does Udo ever come up on the best vocalist list? And I mean, we all know, we grew up, you know, reading those magazines and all the readers polls. Udo never won anything, right?
No.
But he's
He's Udo.
Udo, right?
Freaking Udo.
You know who I thought you were going to say, Pete, when you were like, oh, we all love this guy. He's been on a bunch of classic albums, blah, blah, blah. I thought you were going to say Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because,
He's on
you
my
know,
list too.
like I always thought Brian Johnson was good until I'll never forget that first time I heard Thunderstruck. And I was like, oh, my God, how did this get released?
Well, you know what? Going with that, I guess now we're kind of doing the afterthoughts and stuff, the honorable mentions. I had Brian Johnson I had Bon Scott / Brian, because
I was thinking Bon Scott, but it felt like heresy to.
they're both great though. No, again, they're awesome. I love them, but
It's not
neither
technical.
one of them are great at, but they're great at what they do. And again, could you see AC/DC without either one of those guys?
right.
Yeah.
But are they, singers? No.
Another one I had thought of was Lemmy.
I had Lemmy.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
thought
say
of Lemmy
Lemmy,
too.
but I thought Ryan was
I
going
didn't
to
I
say
thought
it.
Lemmy was
I
going to
didn't
get
wanna
picked by
say it.
everybody.
Yeah.
I thought Ryan was going to say that for sure.
I didn't want to say his name, but yeah, I mean, he's
I didn't want to say his name. I mean, it's true though. I mean, he is one of the most iconic, frontmen in metal. But I mean, hard rock and metal. And there's nothing technical about his voice at all. I'm pretty sure he too has admitted it.
Yeah, nobody else can sing those songs. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh no.
Mickey and Phil were, when he passed, obviously they're like Motorhead's dead. I think if they tried anything else, the mob would have hounded them into the ocean. That would have been the end of their lives. But yeah, because
It was Lemmy's band.
It was Lemmy's band, and he's the only guy that can sing those songs, and his voice is perfect for it. But
Yep.
you're right.
Yeah.
And the other one that Sydney mentioned, I don't even know if Sydney, if it was actually even your pick or you were just kind of mentioning it, was Ozzy.
Yeah.
Because Ozzy's awful. Ozzy's not as. I mean, Ozzy's so bad. Ozzy's like the only guy out of anyone that we've mentioned. Ozzy is so bad that they had to give him 2 mics and make like a chorus kind of thing back in the 70s. You see those little pictures of Ozzy with Sabbath, and there's 2 microphones there. And
Ozzy's the only guy who had another guy doubling his vocals backstage, right? What was the band? It's kind of a butch band. Was it like Cry of Love or something? The fucking singer was back there singing, doing. I mean, it's all over the internet. There's interviews with the guy and everything.
Recently, you mean?
No, this was in the 90s.
Oh,
Sharon hired this guy to do live vocals behind the curtain. I want to say it was a guy from Cry of Love or a guy from Lynch Mob.
He's dead, so it's not Kelly.
Okay, but one of those kind of bands.
Oh, wait a minute. Was it Robert Mason?
Robert Mason, that's it.
I do remember.
I think that's it.
And technically, you are right because he sang on the second Cry of Love album.
Still got it.
You still got it. Yep. Yep.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I love Ozzy. Sabbath's my favorite band, but yeah, he's a fucking terrible singer.
Yeah.
I mean, who's got the worst track record? I've always said, how does this guy keep getting gigs, man? Worst track record in the history of rock and roll.
And
I mean, his new farewell tour got pushed back, what, like 3 times now?
Oh, it's never happening.
Yeah,
I'll go on
this
record
point.
right now telling you that's never
Yeah.
happening.
Well, I think Sharon is building the Ozzy robot clone because that's going to take over.
It has to. 'Cause
Yeah.
I hate to say it.
It yet, but it's yeah.
I hate to
he
say
needed
it,
to
but
quit a long
I
time
don't think he's going to be here when they try to roll out that tour, unfortunately.
Yeah. But hey, maybe Robert Mason's free.
He is.
Put the Ozzy mask on him.
You got any others?
The one that I thought Ryan was going to pick, so I didn't pick it. Paul Bailoff from Exodus.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
again, I
he's
love him. I love that record, but not a great singer. But man, it totally works. That album's amazing.
He's a beast. He was great at harassing the audience, like it's.
Oh yeah, God.
He was a fucking animal. Yeah, but
That's a great choice.
Funny.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
you know what? Now that you say that, here's another one for you that I didn't think of before because I do love him. Blitz from Overkill.
Yeah, I
And
can
I
see
love
that.
Blitz's voice. He's got, he's got a whiny thing that
His voice can be very grating at times.
but
I hate this and I hate that. I hate skinny and I hate fat. I mean, whatever the fuck he says. I hope that doesn't get flagged for copyright, though, Peter. I'm
oh
sorry.
boy.
I didn't go. Yeah, it wasn't close enough.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of the old thrash bands, but yeah, with old thrash bands.
Yeah.
I thought Dave Mustaine too a little bit. I mean, I like Dave Mustaine's voice, but he's also not super. He also like in some of the songs he kind of just talks. Like I think like Sweating Bullets. He's just kind of
I
just
hate that
talking.
song.
Yeah. He's got a unique voice, but yeah, he can be a little at times. Yeah.
He didn't like his voice so much on the first 3 records. His voice was mixed down so low that you can't barely even like. Is he singing? So he didn't even like his voice.
I got a couple here. Joe Walsh.
I thought of him, but I don't really like him. So
Oh, see, I love Joe, but I mean, he's not really a great singer, and his vocals at times are kind of like
the way he talks.
yeah. I mean, great guitar player, writes great songs and all that kind of stuff, and he's the coolest guy around. But man, yeah, ordinary average guy. I was thinking about that when I was writing his name down. I'm like, yeah, oof, I don't know.
Yeah.
Peter Hamill from Vandergraaf Generator.
I've never heard the band.
Yeah, old 70s prog band. He's got a really, really unique voice that either you love it.
I like it, but yeah,
I do too. But he's definitely not a prototypical singer, and he's very angry and just like, shouty and goes high pitched and then low. It's like he's all over the place.
I guess there's one we have to mention that I don't know if any of us are actually fans of, but I'm sure someone will say something in the comments. Probably the most famous, the 2 most famous guys that can't sing and have had careers for 60 years. So Neil Young
And Bob Dylan.
So we mentioned them. You happy?
I know. I wasn't going to go there because everybody knows my hatred for Bob Dylan, but yeah.
The band I'm surprised it didn't get mentioned. I'm not personally a fan, so I didn't want to bring him up, but it's old Vince Neil. Especially these days, the way
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's a tough subject, right?
Yeah.
I just sent that video to a friend of mine because she brought up Motley Crue. I was like, hey, did you see this video that's going around? She's like, nope. And I was like, here you go. And she's like, oof.
Yeah.
So much for getting in fighting shape the last year.
Right?
I know, right? Oof. Did you guys
That's
see
why they
the
postponed it.
docking video
It
that
could
was
be.
posted today?
No.
Don and George
Please don't
doing
make me
Kiss of
talk
Death?
about this.
No, I'm sure is he talking?
You can't even hear him. He's like up there like croaking so low. George is killing it on
Exactly.
guitar.
Yeah.
And then Don is just sitting there and you could barely hear a word he said. He has no power to his vocals at all.
Well, it's
Wow.
funny because I keep missing they've done a couple of those shows where George has joined him.
Yeah, there's one in Jersey. We were just talking with Rich Catino about it in I think October or November.
They're playing here in Philly in November because it's been rescheduled. But there's been a bunch. Like I was supposed to see them at M3, and George ended up having something happen to his arm, or he was sick or something, and he had to miss.
That was my fault.
And then there was another one, and I was joking with my dad. I was like, I don't think I'm meant to see this. And he was like, don't you think that there's a reason? And I was like,
The video
maybe.
I saw was near you, Sydney. It was at a winery, like recently.
Yeah, it was last weekend.
Yeah, it was actually, I mean, it was probably around like 4 hours away from me. It wasn't super close. But yeah, I mean, he came out, and George has still got it, man. And they played, I mean, he played all those songs. I mean, we talked about it before on here, but sometimes he'll go and he'll play, you know, when he does a lot of those with his solo band, they'll kind of be more, I don't know, alter them a little bit, but like he really played those songs just like
She
studio records.
kills George all the time.
I know it.
Kill him.
Because I said he altered the songs a little bit.
Yes. 'Cause
Man, wow.
That's been our argument between you
George
and me.
over here. Holy shit.
You and me, that's been our argument since I've been with you guys, is how you don't like how George takes liberty from 40 years ago and playing the
I do
solos.
not
different.
like it. It's just I prefer the original stuff. I
We
like
all do.
it sounded when he played him on the records, and that's what
Of
I'm
course,
saying.
when he was 24, he's 65.
He can still do it now though, because I'm just saying that he did it this
I know
weekend.
what you're saying. I'm just teasing. You know, and you know, see the people, everybody out there that wants to rip me in the comments, we're fighting, and she knows exactly what my point is. So, but she's just fighting with me. She knows exactly what I'm saying. I'm not picking on her. I'm just saying that she likes to pick on George. And I get what you're saying. I'm not arguing that. I'm just teasing you about it. Because that's what I do.
He was great in that clip I watched today, though.
He was great.
I gotta look it up.
I heard he renamed Lynch Mob like the Freedom Quartet or something like that.
Electric Freedom is what it's called now.
What's that all
Awesome.
about?
That'll look great on a t-shirt.
Yeah,
Good luck, George.
His name is Lynch. You should leave it alone.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of guitar players, I got one last one here. And he's not necessarily known as a singer, but he sang in a lot of songs back in the day, and early in his solo career, he sang all the lead vocals. And I think most people would probably agree that his voice is awful, but he's one of the greatest guitar players of all time. Uli John Roth.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that is. Didn't even think of that.
So I didn't think of that
Yeah,
at all.
Hellcat was not his finest moment.
No. But you know what?
Yeah.
But I have a hard time hearing those songs without those, you know,
Sure.
I mean, what it's just like, what? You know, I remember the first time I heard those songs, I was like, that's not Klaus singing. Who is? Oh, it's Uli. Oh,
Yeah.
well, the guitar's great. So I guess we'll give him a pass, right?
It's like, what kind of contract did he have with Scorpions that he was able to sing a song and album?
He had some dirt on somebody, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
you've written that in somewhere.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's a great one.
yeah, that's a good one, Pete. That is good, and I love Uli.
Sitting at home in a duck out, taking the tour to town. Like, woo. Oh,
That is a
man.
great
I was
one.
listening to some of those early Electric Sun albums, and musically they're outstanding. But man, you know, when he's singing every song on the album, it's just like, woo.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
You can kind of deal with it like one or two on a Scorpions album, but oof.
He's just out there, man. He's brilliant, but man, he's long gone.
Oh, you know what? I can't believe I didn't think of this. The band, I love the band, one of my favorite bands ever. I know Chris is going to agree with me. This is like the capstone on the pyramid of like more will than skill, and that's Kronos from Venom.
Yeah.
His voice with those couple first Venom albums, and like the way he sells it. And he's obviously not a good fucking singer. He's Kronos. Yeah, once he gets into like black metal and like Witching Hour and like Sons of Satan, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. But can he sing? You know.
True. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good choice. All right. Have we beaten this one to death, I think?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So there you have it, everybody. If you think there's any that we have missed, again, these are singers we dig a lot, but we fully understand they're technically not very good singers. So put them in the comments below, and we'll be sure to check those out. Make sure you also visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. We got another split squad for you next Monday with another topic, so stay tuned for that. Tomorrow we got In the Prague Seat. Wednesday we've got new reviews day for What's Hot with Sea Tranquility. Thursday is the Monsters Den. Friday Martin Popoff comes back on the show, and then the weekend, and then we'll see you guys all again next week. So for Butch Jones, Ryan Scow, Chris Ellis, Sydney Taylor, I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody.